Welcome to the Lost in History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. A woman walks alone among ruins and silence in Dresden. The city had been almost completely destroyed in a matter of days. Historic buildings and entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. The year 1945 marked the end of the war and the devastation. Actress Christina Hendricks played Joan Holloway in the series Mad Men between 2007 and 2015 in the United States, in a production set in the 1960s. The wardrobe and the setting faithfully recreated the period's aesthetic. A panoramic view showed the effects of destruction in 1906 in the city of San Francisco, United States, after a strong earthquake followed by fires. Buildings and streets were affected, significantly changing the urban landscape. A damaged garment was preserved as historical evidence. It belonged to the German leader during the Second World War. The damage occurred after a failed attempt on his life. The year 1944 marked the episode at the base known as the Wolf's Lair. An aerial view shows the farewell to President John F. Kennedy. The body lay in state at the Capitol in Washington, surrounded by officials. Thousands of citizens waited in long lines to pay their respects. Normandy, France, 1944. A German soldier is shown having a cup of coffee after being captured during D-Day. The moment was recorded in the early phase of the landing operation carried out by the Allied forces. United States, 1921. The silent film Through the Back Door, starring Mary Pickford, presented the image of a girl accompanied by a dog and a mule. Productions from this period helped establish the careers of major actresses of silent cinema. An East German soldier helped a child find the family in 1961 in Berlin, shortly after the wall that split the city was built. The gesture took place amid the restrictions imposed by the separation between the two sides. United States, 1936. Children appear with worn clothing and dirt marks on their faces. The scene portrays part of the living conditions of families during economic hardship. During the Great Depression, millions of people faced daily hunger. The so-called soup kitchens emerged to offer basic meals. Men, women, and children waited long hours in lines. The year 1932 symbolized the most critical phase of this hardship. Meg Miles rose to prominence as one of the most popular models in the United States. She worked as a pin-up, combining charm and a captivating presence. Her career also included work in film and television. The year 1955 symbolizes the peak of her popularity in entertainment. Civilians and members of the French Resistance took a moment of rest in 1944 in Normandy, France, during the final phase of foreign occupation. The meeting reflected the union of different groups amid the changes of that historical period. Workers used a water pump in 1876 in the United States, without knowing that the system had changes in supply. The water service was affected by natural contamination from underground, which altered the taste of the water. A baby is seated in a child's seat inside a car. The design shows what safety seats were like at the time. With a metal frame and simple support, the focus was only comfort. The year 1962 marks the period when these models were common. England, 1926. A member of a cycling club is shown riding with a baby carriage attached to her bicycle's frame. During competitions, she covered more than 60 kilometers, which is more than 37 miles, accompanied by her child. Detroit, Michigan, United States, 1911. A fountain was left running during winter, forming layers of ice that reached more than 9 meters high, which is more than 29 feet. The scene resulted in an impressive structure created by nature itself. A worker is shown carrying a long, coiled glass tube. The scene was recorded inside Pilkington Glass Ltd. in St. Helens. This British company was a global reference in the glass industry. The year 1918 marked a period of intense production in the sector. A group of women works on an industrial assembly line. They assemble parts of a large military aircraft. Women's labor replaced the absent male workforce. The year 1940 marked the expansion of women's participation in industry. Busy traffic filled Union Street in 1911 in New York City, with automobiles and pedestrians sharing the space. The urban scene showed the rapid growth of the metropolis at the start of the 20th century. Kathrine Switzer registered for the Boston Marathon using only her initials. During the race, officials tried to force her off the course. She resisted with help from fellow runners at her side. The year 1967 became a milestone for women's sports. Soviet Union, August of 1960. The dogs Belka and Strelka appear after successfully completing one orbit around the Earth. The feat marked a significant advance in the Soviet space program. Albert Einstein appeared beside his wife, Elsa Einstein, in the 1920s in Germany during a family record. The couple was portrayed in a period marked by the international recognition of Einstein's theories. Marilyn Monroe was photographed by Milton Greene in 1955 in the United States during one of the several collaborations between them. The images captured different expressions of the actress in a period of great professional rise. Audrey Hepburn appears during filming in New York. She played Holly Golightly in one of her most iconic works. The setting involved busy streets and the famous Tiffany and Company jewelry store. The year 1960 marked the production of the film before its release. Freddie Mercury and Brian May appear together during a live performance. The lit stage reflects the signature energy of Queen's shows. The audience cheered the band's presence on Canadian soil. David Bowie performed before a large audience in 1983 in the United States during one of his international tours. The show highlighted the artist's global reach and his cultural influence in the 80s. Actor Roddy McDowall relaxed while in costume during the filming of Planet of the Apes in 1968 in the United States, between scenes of the production. The detailed character work required hours of preparation with makeup and prosthetics. The first McDonald's restaurant opened in California in the United States. It was created by brothers Richard and Maurice McDonald. The initial focus was to offer hamburgers, French fries, and milkshakes. The first taximeter taxi drove through the streets of New York. This device made it possible to calculate the exact price of each ride. The innovation brought more transparency for drivers and passengers. The year 1907 marked the debut of the system in the American city. United States, 1977. A computer with a 10-megabyte hard drive was sold for $5,995. The system came complete with a monitor, a keyboard, a dot matrix printer, and a floppy disk drive. The 1950s. Television spread quickly and came to dominate households in different countries. The scene represents the impact of this medium on family everyday life. Workers unloaded the head of the Statue of Liberty in 1885 in New York City, United States, after the arrival of the pieces from France. The monument was transported in several parts before being assembled on Bedloe Island. Margaret Eleanor Black, 22 years old, and Charles Guy Hoover, a former pair of students from Parker High School in Chicago, were photographed in 1943 in the United States. The moment brought the two together years after their school days, in the midst of youth. In 1908, the crucial phase of building the Manhattan Bridge began, one of the most important engineering works in New York City at the start of the 20th century. Designed to ease heavy traffic between Manhattan and Brooklyn, the bridge represented the advance of steel cable construction techniques. A construction worker is seen at work high on the bridge. He appears balanced on one of the metal support structures. The scene highlights the risky routine of those who worked on such projects. The year 1988 shows the bridge still undergoing major repairs. An aerial view reveals the vastness of New York at the start of the century. Skyscrapers were already emerging as symbols of urban modernity. The intense bustle reflected the city's economic and cultural growth. The year 1933 corresponds to 90 years before the present. London's streets teemed with carriages, pedestrians, and local trade. The city was already one of the largest urban centers in the world. Victorian architecture dominated the landscape with imposing buildings. The year 1890 reflected a period of British prosperity and expansion. Young people showed off modern clothes while strolling through busy streets. Fashion reflected the boldness and free spirit of the new generation. Short styles, elegant hats, and light fabrics stood out. The year 1925 marked the height of the so-called Jazz Age. New York City, United States, 1900. Residents take advantage of a good day to hang clothes on outdoor lines. The scene shows rows of garments strung between city buildings. United States, the 1920s. People used automobiles adapted for camping during leisure trips. The scene shows families using the car as both transportation and temporary shelter. An old motorhome with a trailer was used for leisure trips in 1922 in the United States. The vehicle represented a practical solution to combine transportation and lodging over long distances. The practice marked the beginning of the popularization of road tourism at the start of the 20th century. A street lantern lit paths at the start of the 20th century in Belgium, reflecting the urban style of that era. The object was part of daily life and helped with nighttime safety in the cities. Guests and visitors gathered on the upper floor of the City Hotel in 1880, in the city of Council Bluffs, Iowa, enjoying the open space. The building was one of the local landmarks, serving as a stop for travelers. A woman worked at a spinning wheel around 1890 in County Galway, Ireland, preserving traditional textile-making techniques. The craft was part of the routine of many rural families who depended on handiwork. A 19th century family posed in front of its sod house in the 1880s on the Great Plains of the United States, displaying utensils and belongings in the yard. South Dakota, United States, 1890. A group of students and teachers gathers in front of a rural school. The scene shows what education was like in small communities of the period. The young boxer Fred Bretonel was 15 years old in 1920 in France when he began to gain recognition. The athlete was photographed again in 1928 at 23, already showing growth in his sports career. A grocery clerk worked in 1962 in the city of Tallahassee, Florida, helping customers day to day. Organized shelves displayed a variety of products that reflected the consumption habits of the time. Children rested during nap time in preschool in the 1950s in the United States in a group learning environment. Aligned mats and the organization of the space reflected common educational methods of the period. A mask called poker face was created in the 1920s in the United States with the goal of hiding expressions during the game. The accessory covered part of the face and sought to keep other participants from noticing emotional cues. A camera with a flash accessory was introduced in 1931 in the United States as part of the technological innovations of the time. The equipment made higher quality possible in low light settings. Employees worked on the production of Rolleiflex cameras in 1949 in Germany during post-war industrial rebuilding. The assembly lines brought together precision parts to create high-quality photographic equipment. An Italian immigrant grocery served customers in 1943 in New York City, offering traditional foods and a variety of products. The space reflected the cultural diversity present in the neighborhoods of the time. A portrait in front of a mirror was made in 1920 in Japan, capturing a creative photographic style for the time. The use of reflection allowed new forms of visual composition to be explored. Nagasaki, Japan, 1891. Tsarevich Nicholas Alexandrovich Romanov was portrayed in a traditional rickshaw. He was the son of Emperor Alexander III of Russia. The record shows part of his journey to the East, made before he took on official responsibilities in the Russian Empire. Alfred Hitchcock walked along the riverbanks in search of creative ideas. The British filmmaker was known for his obsession with visual details. His presence in London drew the attention of onlookers and photographers. The idea of the American dream inspired families in search of opportunity. It was seen as the chance to prosper through effort and dedication. Simple homes, steady jobs, and education were central goals. Young people were guided to learn basic day-to-day tasks. These activities ranged from sewing to preparing simple meals. The instruction valued self-sufficiency during a time of social change. The year 1919 brought new meaning to these household practices. Chicago streets are packed during rush hours. Cars back up among tall buildings and constant traffic signals. Public transit also faces overcrowding on trains and buses. The year 2013 shows that the situation has changed little over time. Children walked long distances to attend school daily. They often went in groups along dirt roads or open fields. Public transportation was not yet accessible in rural areas. The year 1925 marked this simple routine of school life. United States, around 1940. A Thanksgiving meal is being prepared in a family setting. The scene shows people gathered around the table, arranging food and utensils. United States, about 1920 to 1930. A mail carrier appears during the period when physical mail was the main means of communication. The scene shows the traditional uniform and the delivery bag used in daily work. United States, the 1920s. The Noonan family appears on a car outing with their 14 children. The scene shows how a single vehicle was used to carry all the family members. A kitchen is shown while a roasted rib meal was being prepared and enjoyed. Utensils, furniture, and eating habits characterized the start of the 20th century. Women of a family posed together for a period photograph in 1912 in the United States. Elegant clothing and accessories show features of early 20th century fashion. Men gathered in front of a store to listen to the radio in the 1930s in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City. The device broadcast news, music, and programs that brought the community together. A group of people awaited the supposed appearance of the Loch Ness monster in 1968 in Scotland, near the lakeshore. The expectation brought together onlookers, locals, and visitors in search of sightings. A young indigenous woman of the Kiowa people was portrayed in 1894 in the territory of Oklahoma, United States, wearing the traditional dress of her community. The photograph preserved cultural and identity aspects valued among Native peoples. A portrait of a woman was made at the start of the 20th century in Illinois, United States, preserving details of clothing and personal style of the time. The record reflected common photography practices in local studios. A woman was portrayed in 1900 in the United States wearing clothing typical of the start of the 20th century. The clothing style reflected the social and cultural standards of the time. Individual portraits were common as a way to preserve family memory. The Eisteddfod festival was celebrated in the 19th century in Wales, honoring literature, music, and the Welsh language. The ceremony included the symbolic presentation of Druids, representing ancient cultural traditions. A couple celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary in the 1950s in the United States, being fourth-generation ancestors on the paternal side of a family. The photograph was preserved as a keepsake and shared decades later. Marine Sergeant Frank Prater is shown holding a small kitten. he improvises a bottle to feed the orphaned kitten he found. The scene contrasts with the harsh environment around him. The year 1952 fell during the Korean War. The context of the photograph. Police officers patrol New York City subway platforms. They move among passengers to ensure order and safety. Their presence reinforced control during a turbulent period in the city. A Parisian girl read the news about Yuri Gagarin in 1961 in France, soon after the first human flight into space. The feat drew worldwide interest and gained prominence in the newspapers of the time. Harold Whittles sits with an intense look of surprise. He had been born deaf and had never heard sounds in his life. At that moment, he receives a newly adjusted hearing device in his ear. The Titanic departed from Southampton bound for New York. The vessel was considered the largest and most luxurious in the world. Thousands gathered to watch the departure. The year 1912 marked its inaugural transatlantic voyage. A man sitting at the edge of the street expresses the harsh reality of the Great Depression. The crisis began with the stock market crash in New York. Thousands of families lost their homes and livelihoods. The year 1930 marked the initial peak of public hardship. Istanbul, Turkey, 1929. The scene shows a snowman built during a memorable winter in the city. The record presents an unusual moment for the region, since snowfall was not a frequent occurrence. Norma Jean, who would later be known as Marilyn Monroe, was photographed on the beach in 1943 on Santa Catalina Island, California, with the Avalon Casino in the background. The moment took place before her film career gained international prominence. Kirk Douglas handed out autographs to fans in 1953 on a beach in the United States during the peak of his popularity as an actor. Moments like this helped strengthen the image of stars outside the movie screens.